I do have a lot of other members from our team also on the call to address any questions. We do have a wide variety of products we want to talk about. So me and William will probably be going through most of the slides, while others will chip in terms of any questions that come up. William, do you want to quickly introduce yourself and then I can get started?
Yeah, sure, Rahul. Hey, everyone, I'm William. I'm another product manager in Cisco's Enterprise Routing Group. So I'm covering more of the aggregation type of platforms like the AS1K and its next generation AMD Catalyst 8000 Edge platforms family. Thanks.
Thanks, William. So we do have a lot of content to cover, but we do want to make the session interactive as much as possible. So please feel free to jump in and ask any questions as they come along, because it is a 90-minute session. We don't want you to hold back on questions all the way till the end. So with that said, let me get started here in terms of the slides. What we are going to be talking about today is the Catalyst 8000 Edge platforms family. So we have three different series within this: the aggregation or the head-end platforms, which is the Catalyst 8500. And on the branch side, or the modular branch side, we have the Catalyst 8300, 8200 series, and our virtual software, which runs the same iOS XE software stack, is the Catalyst 8000V Edge software. We've also launched the Catalyst 8200 Edge UCPE, which is our virtualization hardware. Now, some of the common things that you're going to find across all of these new generation platforms are that they're all going to be SD-WAN ready on day one. They will support a lot of the services that we have to offer, things like our multi-layer security, application optimization techniques, and analytics, as well as trustworthy solutions and WAN max capabilities. So all of these are going to be a lot of feature richness in these platforms when it comes to both SD-WAN as well as non-SD-WAN deployments. From a hardware perspective and an architecture perspective, we've done fundamental changes because of which you're going to see huge improvements in terms of performance. You're going to see anywhere from 2 to 5x improvement based on the particular module you're looking at as compared to their predecessors. We've also introduced for the first time 10 gig WAN connections at the branch, and then 40 gig and 100 gig WAN connections on the head-end aggregation side. We've also done a lot of cool innovations around integrating with different cloud service providers, along with being able to look at future roadmap things like Thousand Eyes integration that gives you better data insights. Just a quick view before I continue on the platform side, just a quick view on what is our SD-WAN solution stack and how does it look like. So what we have is our Cisco multi-cloud secure SD-WAN, which is essentially, provides you some of the very basic things that are expected of SD-WAN, being able to have SD-WAN deployed over any location, over any transport. But I think the key differentiator for Cisco is really the multitude of services that we are able to offer. And that includes your multi-cloud optimization. And when I say multi-cloud optimization, what I really mean there is application optimization techniques that are going to really improve the user experience that you're able to offer, on the solution. So things like TCP optimization and forward error correction, packet duplication, these kind of techniques are really going to improve the application user experience for customers. The next very big item here that you're seeing are multi-layer security. And the multi-layer security is really about giving the flexibility to customers to be able to do both on-prem security, and when I say on-prem security, we're really talking about the full stack here. Things like IPS, IDS, URL filtering, AMP, thread grid. So we have a very rich multitude of services that we're able to do on-box, on-prem, based on what you're looking for at the branch. Really important and useful in use cases like direct internet access or guest Wi-Fi. At the same time, we call it multi-layer security because we're also able to offer security in the cloud as well, because we have a very robust cloud security, a firewall as a service as part of our umbrella DNS solution. So when I say umbrella, we have the umbrella secure internet gateway, which essentially gives you your DNS security, your firewall as a service in the cloud, as well as your secure web gateway. We also recently acquired Thousand Eyes, and we're looking to see how we can integrate that. So we have a very good roadmap over the next 6 months or so about how we integrate Thousand Eyes for better visibility and analytics into our solution. And voice has been a huge differentiator for us, in our traditional iOS XE feature stack. And over the last 3 releases, we have come a long way in adding a lot of voice capabilities into our SD-WAN solution. So slowly and steadily, we're bringing features like DSP capabilities, your analog voice support like FXS, FXO port capabilities, as well as voice survivability, which is SRST. So all of these features have been added into our SD-WAN stack now and are able to be deployed from vManage. And multi-domain integrations is about how we're able to integrate our solutions with other enterprise-class solutions like software-defined access and ACI and other API integrations. So all in all, the key takeaway is here that we have a very rich and robust SD-WAN stack, and all of that capabilities are going to be available day one on this next new generation of Catalyst 8K platforms. Now, a quick view of, because this is one of the most common questions that comes up, the moment a lot of people hear the word Catalyst in a routing session, they're a little confused about what this platform really is. Is it a router? Is it a switch? I just want to be absolutely clear. We're talking about a product evolution of ISRs and ASRs. So these are routers. And I just want to explain why we ended up calling them Catalyst 8000 Edge platforms. To do that, I sort of have to set the context. Cisco started its intent-based networking journey in the enterprise class products with the launch of the Catalyst 9K products with DNA Center on the switching side with the 9500, the 9300. We sort of then extended that to the wireless space with the introduction of the 9800 controller and the 9100 access points. Now, this is almost a natural progression to, take that Catalyst branding into a routing space with the launch of the Catalyst 8000 Edge platforms family. Now, what's underpinning all of this, the commonality is iOS XE. So iOS XE as a software architecture is a common driver across all of these platforms. And we also have the same DNA licensing models across all of these platforms, giving you that consistent end-to-end experience. So essentially what we're trying to say is that almost like how you have Cisco Meraki branding across all wireless switching and routing products, our intent was to have the same Catalyst branding across all enterprise networking products of Catalyst 9K and Catalyst 8K. Now, next, in terms of all the different products that we've launched, we've been really busy over the last 6 months launching a multitude of products. So we first launched the Catalyst 8500 series and the 8300 series for aggregation and modular respectively back in October with the 17.3.2 release. And in Jan, we did our 2 platforms that we launched, or 3 platforms that we launched along with the 17.4 release. So the Catalyst 8500L was the aggregation platform, the Catalyst 8200, your modular branch platform, and then we also launched the Catalyst 8200 UCPE, which is a virtualization hardware, along with the Catalyst 8000V virtualization software that runs on top of it, and also in the cloud. And then much more recently, in the last few weeks, we've launched the Catalyst 8200L, which was released with the 17.5.1 release, and that's our lowest entry model of the modular branch platforms, the Catalyst 8200L. Now, again, all of this is best-in-class hardware, really built ground up to be able to deliver SD-WAN with SASE solutions, as well as multi-cloud integrations and 5G integration. Now, a quick view of our, the current portfolio versus the next generation of Catalyst 8000 Edge platforms family. So we have the Catalyst 8500 and 8500L as an evolution to the ASR 1000 1HX, 2HX, and 1X fixed platforms. So these are going to be much faster and have the latest generation of QFP 3.0 that William will be talking about shortly. And then we have the Catalyst 8300, 8200, 8200L as an evolution to the ISR 4400 and 4300 series. Again, these are modular branch platforms. We have ground up done some fundamental changes in the architecture for an SoC-based architecture to be able to improve on both services performance as well as data forwarding performance. And then lastly, we have the Catalyst 8000V as an evolution to the CSR 1000V, and the Catalyst 8200 Edge UCP as an evolution to the ENCS 5100. Just a quick call out I want to make here. Now that we've launched all of these new hardware, it doesn't mean that the older hardware is going away. We want to be absolutely clear that the ASR 1000 fixed platforms and the ISR 4K platforms, we don't have any current plans to do end of sale or end of life of these products in this calendar year. So until December 2021, you're not going to see any end of sale, end of life announcements for any of these existing products. At the same time, I do want to call out that we believe there's a lot more price to performance value that you're going to see out of these newer Catalyst 8K products as compared to the predecessors. So we definitely encourage you to take a hard look at this newer hardware and see how they can really help you get to the next level of price to performance value. And I think as we go along through this deck and we present all of these platforms, we believe that will sort of start becoming very apparent. So next, I don't want to just, before we get into the specific sections of each of these platforms, I do want to give you a high-level view of how these platforms align in terms of their performance. So on the aggregation head-end side, we have the Catalyst 8500L at the bottom there, which is the entry-level aggregation head-end platform, and that has four 10-gig ports and can go up to 8 gig of SD-WAN IPsec throughput. And all the numbers that you're seeing here are for IMIX traffic, and IMIX aggregate traffic. So it's true representative of real-world traffic with a average packet size of 352 bytes. And then we have the 8500 models, the 12x and 12x 4QC, that do up to 23 gig and up to 32 gig of SD-WAN IPsec throughput aggregate traffic, respectively. And just very recently in the 17.5 release a few weeks back, we have for the first time brought in SD-WAN capabilities on our modular ASR platforms. And we've been able to do that with the introduction of the ESP200X card on the ASR 1006X chassis. And because of that ESP card, we are able to take the throughput on this platform all the way up to 50 gig of SD-WAN IPsec throughput, and that's a very high scale. And that will support a lot of the 10 gig, 40, 100 gig WAN ports on that modular chassis. Next, we have on the branch side, at the top, we're looking at all the 8300 and 8200 models. All of these platforms are going to be modular, so you're going to find a combination of NIM and PIM slots on these platforms. And then you're going to, all of these platforms come with voice integrations just like the ISR 4Ks. And I was talking about the dynamic core allocation. That's a fundamental architecture change that we've been able to do to better improve in terms of services and performance scale. And in terms of the throughputs itself, you're looking at the top-end models here, the 42X models that can go up to 5 gig of SD-WAN IPsec throughput, again, aggregate IMIX traffic. And then you have the 60 models that can go up to 2 gig of SD-WAN IPsec throughput. And then the 8200s, we have the two different models, 8200 and 8200L, that can go up to 1 gig and 500 meg of SD-WAN IPsec throughput, aggregate traffic again, respectively. And at the fixed branch side, we have the two 1100 models, both the 4G and 6G models that can go to 200 meg and 500 meg, respectively. We also have the X versions of them launched recently, which give 8 gig of default DRAM on them, so that they're able to run some of the security containers. So all of this, and these particular models can run dual OS, both the traditional Viptela OS as well as the ISX SD-WAN software on them. So with that, let me hand over to William. He's going to be talking about the use cases and also the aggregation platforms, after which I'll talk about the branch platforms. William, you there?
Hey, Rahul. I can go to the next slide. and we'll just cover some of the use cases.
Sure.
Okay. So as Rahul was saying, the Catalyst 8000 Edge platforms are all with iOS XE. So you have one family, you have many different solutions, all iOS XE across. What we have with these platforms is that we do have a single image now that can run in either SD-WAN mode, which is your controller mode, or in a non-SD-WAN mode, which is your autonomous mode. So you really have the flexibility if to run any of these platforms, the 85, 83, 82, 8000V, in an SD-WAN mode or autonomous mode. So if you're doing SD-WAN, boot up the image in SD-WAN. If you're not doing SD-WAN, you boot up the image in autonomous mode. So things like your DMVPN, GetVPN, FlexVPN, or any other existing non-SD-WAN use case today, Internet Edge, DCI, etc. All these kind of use cases today are supported on the platforms that on the 8500, 8300, 82, etc. So it's really the flexibility that you have with a single image, what you want to do, and with a common DNA subscription licensing that would apply to both controller mode and autonomous mode. It's really giving you the flexibility. That's the key here, key thing here, right? So whatever you want to do, you want to do SD-WAN, you want to do non-SD-WAN, you can do any of that. You get a DNA subscription, you're good to go. So just want to call out that. That's just going to be the kind of the intro, and then we'll go into some of these other use cases in a little bit more detail. We're hooking to the next one. We'll talk about SD-WAN a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah. So Rahul was talking about the SD-WAN solution already earlier, right? So that's where you have the multitude of services, your multi-cloud optimization, your multi-layer security, all that kind of stuff. Where do we put these Catalyst platforms in the SD-WAN networks? For the branch, we have the A300 and 8200. For the aggregation, you have the 8500, and then for your cloud virtual option, your CAKV, that's in the middle there. So that's CAKV. So on the branch side of things, we've brought in a number of interface flexibility. So really the new thing here is we've brought 10 gig to the WAN to the branch. So you have 10 gig ports on some of the A300 offerings, but you still have the all the diversity of interfaces that you've had with a previous ISAR 4K. For example, you have your LTE interfaces. And we've brought in 5G now as well. DSL, PoE, all those kind of interface flexibility as you expect from a branch platform are there in A300 and A200. We support the SASE, umbrella SIG cloud security option, the cloud on-ramp, that's again all these multitude of services we have in SD-WAN. That's all here, on-prem security services. We also have the UC voice integration. Of course, ISAR 4K had a lot of voice capabilities. A300 of course will have those voice capabilities as well. Having that voice capability in the SD-WAN solution now. More and more voice features coming to SD-WAN. So all part of the branch there, all part of the A300 and 8200 platforms, enabling all those kind of capabilities. On the aggregation side of things, you have the 8500. This is now we have options for 100 gig and 40 gig connectivity for SD-WAN. So that's new for Cisco. So previously in our previous generation products, in the AS1K, we had 1 gig and 10 gig ports for SD-WAN. With the 8500, we now have 40 gig and 100 gig ports as well. So very high performance SD-WAN performance, high SD-WAN scale, and these are all compact one-use devices in the 8500 lineup. So very compact, efficient devices for your aggregation. Okay, so those are the platforms for being used in the SD-WAN use case. Can you go to the next one, Rahul? We're talking about SASE. Here, so if you want to have a direct internet access at your branch, for example, you can go through Umbrella SIG, the SASE component here, where you can run your security features, have your security policies applied in the Cisco Umbrella, Talos Secure Web Gateway, DNS web layer security, all that kind of stuff through a direct internet access link. Alternatively, of course, if you're just doing your traffic through the SD-WAN overlay, that's still going to go through normally through your SD-WAN overlay, and then go through your regional hub and colo, and then you can reach your SaaS providers there that way. So, but the really key thing here is you can have the security policies being applied, through Umbrella SIG, and that's traffic going through the internet, really having that direct internet access at your branch here, and that's really the SASE component for the SD-WAN solution. Next one, Rahul, and we just talk about the kind of the more traditional routing applications, enterprise applications that we've had on the iOS XE feature. So this is the non-SD-WAN case. This is where at your A300, you're using it at a branch, and you got capabilities for high scale NAT, firewall, etc. In the middle, you have your AS1K or your 8500 WAN aggregation kind of piece, serving as IPsec gateway or doing a number of IPsec or VPN technologies like your DMVPN, GetVPN, FlexVPN. So all those features are supported on the 8500, like the S1K. You can also do all those other things, DCI, Internet Edge, Cloud Edge for the CAKV. I think the point here is that we have feature parity on the Catalyst 8K platforms compared to the previous generation of ASR 1K and ISR 4K products. The only exceptions are, kind of these corner cases, like on the 8500. The only exception is this SPBNG feature set. But if you're doing, enterprise kind of use cases, again, the DMVPN, GetVPN, all that kind of stuff, feature parity. You can expect feature parity with those platforms. Similarly, on the 8300 side of things, the only exception is VWAS, but everything else, yeah, you got feature parity. So for the most part, you can expect, whatever you're doing with an ASR 1K and an ISR 4K, that would be applicable with the 8500 and 8300 platforms as well. So, really getting that feature parity with the next generation platforms compared to, your previous generation. So that's just what we're calling out here. And then in the next one, we talk about SD branch. Yeah, so this is where you have a virtualized options. You can run VNFs on top of a Catalyst 8200 UCPE, for example. So you can have your routing VNF with Catalyst 8000V. You can run enterprise firewalls, URL filtering, IPS. Running those security policies, security features as a VNF as well. Now, really having the virtualized options of basically virtual functions on your 8200 UCP. That's really the key thing here, is that we've enabled an 8200 and the ENCS, and so this is the next generation virtualized platforms, for the next generation 5100. I think that's the key thing there. Okay, so now we're going into a little bit of a deeper dive into the aggregation platforms, the Catalyst 8500. So this is showing the kind of lineup again in the Catalyst 8500. We have three models there. We have the 12X4QC, the 12X, and then the 8S4X. So two of the platforms are built with the QFP 3.0, the all-new QFP that we have. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. And then the third one, the 8500L 8S4X, is based off of an x86 SoC. But the key innovation we've done is this algorithm we have called FBD, flow-based distribution. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But basically these platforms are your next generation of your fixed AS1K platforms, like your ASR 1002HX, ASR 1001HX, and the ASR 1001X. I'll talk about the the QFP next. Rahul, can you just talk about for the next one? I'll talk about the QFP. Okay, so the QFP is a Cisco ASIC that we've had for since the AS1K. And we have a all-new third-generation quantum flow processor for the Catalyst 8500. But I think it helps to go through the journey of what we've come with for these ASICs. So we had the very first quantum flow processor, QFP, back in 2008 for the very first AS1K. It was rated for 40 gig of throughput. It was 40 cores. It was multi-threaded, so 4 threads per core, so 160 threads. So back in 2008, we had the very first QFP powering the very first AS1K, 40 gig of throughput back then. In 2012, we came out with a second generation of quantum flow processor where we buffed up the core count, so from 40 cores to 64 cores. We added some innovations on the I/O side of things to get more ports as well. But basically, you had up to 60 gig of throughput for that QFP in 2012. We were able to mesh a few of these QFPs together to get higher performing products as well. So that was in 2012, and now in 2020, 2021, we've come up with the all-new third generation quantum flow processor, where again we've buffed up the core count, 64 cores to 224 cores, so a lot more cores, a lot more threads, a lot more performance as well, up to 200 gig of throughput. But one of the key things we've done in this third generation quantum flow processor is we've added the IPsec functionality inline in the ASIC itself. So hardware accelerated IPsec, much higher IPsec performance compared to the previous generation. So if you look at the second generation quantum flow processor products, today that's like your ASR 1001HX and 2HX. If you're familiar with those products, we had a separate crypto hardware module to do IPsec on those platforms. And that's gone away with 8500 because, again, the IPsec functionality is inline in ASIC itself. Much higher IPsec performance compared to the previous generation of products. That's what you're really getting with the QFP 3.0. Just other, up to 3x IPsec performance, a lot more cores, so up to 2x the N-bar performance. We buffed up the scale side of things as well, a lot more memory on this ASIC, so up to 2x the NAT and CGN scale. So, a lot more encryption and a lot more service performance and scale with the QFP 3.0. And that's what's powering the Catalyst 8500 series platforms with that QFP 3.0. Okay, so just showing 8500 and 8500L, the kind of the data plane options we have again. So QFP 3.0 on the 8500, I just talked about that. On the 8500L, we don't have a QFP 3.0. We have that x86 SoC, but the key thing is the FBD aspect. So where on the 8500, we had the QFP 3.0, 8500L, we have the x86 FBD, and the advanced flow-based distribution is basically an algorithm that we came up with for the 8500L. This allows you to use your the cores more efficiently. So in a traditional kind of balancing of the traffic is that you have a round robin distribution of traffic, right? So traffic comes in, you distribute the traffic to each of the cores. Instead with the flow-based distribution, what we've done here is that we've locked certain flows to certain threads. So basically, you have a lot higher stateful performance. So you have less overhead of passing the traffic between the cores. You're basically saying this core will do this kind of flow, and we can really accelerate the performance for those kind of flows. So this really matters for SD-WAN, for example, where you have a lot of stateful traffic. So what you get with 8500L is, it's basically much higher stateful feature performance, so much higher SD-WAN performance. So all your SD-WAN services that you expected from an AS1K and 8500, like your NBAR, NAT, Firewall, QS is all there with 8500L as well. The control plane has been buffed for these platforms. So, the previous generation of products, we had up to 6,000 IPsec tunnels. With the 8500 and 8500L, we support up to 8,000 SD-WAN IPsec tunnels, so 6,000 to 8,000 SD-WAN IPsec tunnels. And then in terms of ports, we buffed up the ports. So, 1 gig, 10 gig, 40 gig, and 100 gig ports as options in the lineup for these platforms. Next one. Okay, so just showing a little bit more of the high-level, benefits. I talked about the integrated rich services. So all your NBAR, NAT, Firewall, QS are there on these platforms, just like in AS1K. So these are your next-generation AS1K platforms. So all those integrated rich features are there. In terms of scale, mentioned that as well. Up to 8,000 SD-WAN IPsec tunnels. That's been buffed up from 6,000, as well as the ports 1 gig, 10 gig, 40 gig, and 100 gig ports. In terms of multi-layer security, all these ports on these platforms, the 8500 and the 8500L are all WAN-MASIC enabled, all ports. So all 1 gig, 10 gig, 40 gig, or 100 gig ports on these platforms are all WAN-MASIC enabled. In terms of IPsec, that's really been accelerated by the QFP 3.0 for the 8500 platforms, so much higher IPsec performance there. On the 8500L, which is based off an x86 SoC, we still have the Intel QAT chip that's doing a kind of a quick assist technology that really gives you, better performance for IPsec as well. So there's acceleration for IPsec. In terms of trustworthy solutions, there is trust anchor modules with these platforms to, basically ensure what you're doing with these platforms is genuine Cisco that has been tampered with from a hardware or software standpoint. So really giving you an extra level of security that way. And then these platforms do support the umbrella SIG, the cloud-based security option with these platforms. Of course, it's applicable for these platforms. In terms of edge intelligence, there are x86 resources on these platforms to do kind of compute. On the 8500, we have, we just have a single x86 core. These are the QFP platforms. But we do have a single x86 core that can be used for container applications. You're not likely to do data plane applications just with a single core, but kind of management applications, you can certainly do so with these platforms. And then with the 8500L, which is an x86 SoC, certainly you have more cores to do any kind of compute for that platform. The 8500L has a little more options there for the compute. All the ports on these platforms, are just built in, so there are no expansion modules. I'll just call that out. So no EPA, NIM, SPAs on these platforms. There's just the built-in ports, but there are no port licenses. So any ports that you want to use, they're as available. You can just choose to do so. So no port licenses, just flexibility in terms of the ports. We can go to the next one and talk about the 8500 a little bit more detailed. So this is, again, the QFP-based platforms, the 8500, the two models here. The top model, the C8500-12X 4QC, this is the model that has 12 10 gig ports. That's at 12X. And then 4 QSOP ports. That's at 4QC. So that, those letters are what it really refers to, and the numbers and the letters. So the last part in the SKU there is referring to the port count, basically. So 12X, again, is 12 10 gig ports, 4QC for 4 QSOP ports. The lower model, the 8500-12X, is 12 10 gig ports. So if you're looking for a platform that has the 40 gig and 100 gig port capability, that's the top model. If you're just looking for something just with the 1 gig and 10 gig ports, that's the lower model. So again, both platforms are built with the QFP 3.0, so you still get all that goodness here. The top model here, the 12X 4QC, is rated for up to 200 gig of ceph. In terms of the user-centric design, and in terms of the design of these platforms, there is a RFID tag on the left side of this chassis, which gives you, some options for inventory management. And then on the right side of this chassis, there is a kind of a groove that you can see on the chassis there. That's the label tray where you can pull out a plastic strip that has some more information about the devices in terms of the the SKU, the version ID, and all that kind of stuff. There's also a QR code on that label tray where you can scan. You can get more device information that way. But basically, this is an alternative to having a kind of a label sticker either on the top of the chassis or the bottom of the chassis where, if this was rack mounted, it would be a little bit more difficult to get that information. So instead, all the information is now available on the front panel. You can pull out that label tray or scan the QR code to get more device information. So that's all part of that user-centric design, the label tray. In terms of the FRUs or field replaceable units, we do have the power supplies on the back of the chassis, not shown here, but on the back of the chassis. The power supplies, the fan tray, so those are all field replaceable units. The memories, field replaceable and upgradable as well as storage options. So the number of different field replaceable units available for these platforms. Okay, can you go next one, Rahul? Okay, in terms of the 8500L, so this SKU here has 8 1 gig ports, so it's 8S for 8 1 gig ports, and then 4X for 4 10 gig ports. So this one just has the 1 gig and 10 gig ports again, so just 8 1 gig and then 4 10 gig. In terms of the performance, the performance of this platform is rated up to 20 gig of Ceph, and then this is using the x86 SoC again with the FBD, the flow-based distribution algorithm that we've done for this platform to give you higher stateful performance. In terms of user-centric design, very similar to the previous 8500. So you have the label tray, the RFID tag, and all that kind of stuff, and the field replaceable units. Very similar kind of design there. So you have all that kind of all those features are there as well with 8500L. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, so just a couple of, comparisons of platforms of the previous generation with its the 8500 lineup. So this is showing the ASR 1002HX compared to the 8500 12X 4QC for a side-by-side comparison. So really, you got the QFP 2.0 on the ASR 1002HX compared to the QFP 3.0 on 8500, and you get all that goodness from the QFP, the new QFP. So much higher performance, scale, and ports all from that QFP 3.0. Like for example, some of the figures at the top there, you go from 18 gig SD-WAN to 33 gig SD-WAN, 100 gig Ceph to 200 gig Ceph, 8 million NAT to 16 million NAT, etc. So you're getting a lot more, throughput, scale, and ports, all driven by that QFP 3.0. And this is typically at a price point that's the same or less than the ASR 1002HX. So that's what Rahul was saying, a lot more price performance value earlier, right? So that's what you're really getting here, a lot more price performance value, a lot higher throughput, port scale, etc., at a price point that's typically the same or even less. So that's what you're getting with the 8500 12X for QC. Next, here's the next one. Similar kind of conclusion, but this is comparing a ASR 1001HX with an 8500 12X. Again, QFP 2.0 to 3.0, so you get all that goodness. Roughly 2x the performance with the 8500 in this case. 11.5 gig to 23 gig, 60 gig Ceph to 120 gig Ceph, etc. So, won't go through all the figures. Basically, you got all the benefits of the QFP 3.0 to give you a lot more price performance value. So, again, same kind of conclusion there. And then looking at the ASR 1001X versus the 8500L. So this is where you got the x86 SoC with the FBD again. So the key thing with this platform is that you've got higher SD-WAN performance, stateful traffic performance. So from 4.5 gig SD-WAN to 8.5 gig SD-WAN. So higher SD-WAN performance. You got a higher port count as well. So the ASR 1001X had 6 1 gig ports and 2 10 gig ports built in on that ASR 1001X. On the 8500L on the right there, you have 8 1 gig ports and 4 10 gig ports. So we've added 2 additional 10 gig ports. So now you have 4 10 gig ports on this platform. You have higher SD-WAN performance, and that's what you're really getting with the 8500L. 8S4X. There's still feature parity with this platform. You're just getting higher stateful feature performance and then higher ports with the 8500L. Okay. Okay. So lastly, here we have the modular AS1K that has now been enabled for SD-WAN. So that's what Rahul was sharing earlier as well, showing the comparison of the SD-WAN products and its performance. So we've enabled the SD-WAN on the ASR 1006X specifically with the ESP200X line card. That line card has the QFP 3.0 as well. There are 2 of those ASICs on board. So you actually have up to 2x the C8500 performance. So where the 8500 you had a single QFP 3.0 ASIC, the line card on this ASR 1006X with ESP200X, there are 2 of these ASICs there, so you have up to 2x the performance. So it is a modular chassis, so you do have the interface flexibility for 100 gig, 40 gig, and 10 gig ports. So a number of different Ethernet port adapters you can plug in here to get the interface variety here. So the key thing here is you got higher performance, if looking for even higher performance than what we have in 8500, the port flexibility, and then investment protection in the sense that if you have any existing components in the AS1K, you can certainly build up a modular chassis, and then you add the DNA subscription, and then off you go with the SD-WAN enabled modular chassis. So that's the ASR 1006X. This has come out for the 17.5 software, which is the April release of this year. So that's what's just come out. So this is what's new for the AS1K. Okay, so just one more, I guess, a little bit more detail if we want to go into the detail of the ASR 1006X with the the modular AS1K SD-WAN support. So this is just a more kind of detailed information on the specific line cards that are applicable. I don't think we need to go through in this kind of detail unless there's any questions. I think that kind of that's it for the AS1K and the 8500. Yeah, if any questions, just let us know.
Yeah, I know we've been going steady for about 40 minutes now. So yeah, we'll take a quick pause and see, open up if there are any questions, just in the intro section or in the aggregation or use case section that William covered. Okay, I think then we'll just keep going. We do have a lot more to cover. So thanks for that, William. And let me now talk about the Catalyst 8300, 8200 platforms, really the modular branch platforms that we have. If you look at the lineup of these products, you're essentially looking at the Catalyst 8300 series and evolution to the 4431 and 4451 platforms. And then we have the Catalyst 8200, 8200L series and evolution to the 4331 and 21 platforms. And then we have the Catalyst 8200 Edge UCPE, the evolution to the ENCS 5100 that I'll talk about in the next section. So some of the commonalities you're going to see is that all of these are built for SD-WAN, optimized for SASE, especially some of the lower end models are really meant for SASE to, instead of being able to do on-box capabilities, we're recommending you go with the cloud security model. Now, coming to the 8300, 8200 architecture itself, all of these platforms are going to be x86 SoC-based architecture. What's helped us with that x86 SoC architecture is come out with something called a dynamic code allocation. So on the ISR 4400, what we had was a split control plane data plane architecture, because of which we couldn't, because it had two physical CPUs, we couldn't really allocate cores in and out of data plane and service plane. But with this single x86 SoC architecture, what we've been able to do now is all the services that run in a containerized manner. You can look at TCP optimization or the Snot engine, which is IPS, IDS, URL filtering, AMP. So all of these features can now be run on a dedicated service core. But if the customer chooses not to turn on these features, then you don't have to have the CPU resources wasted. You can repurpose them into the data plane by just with a single command. It will start allocating those unused cores into data plane, and you're going to see improved performances for your standard data plane features like IPsec, QoS, DPI, FNF, or flexible net flow. So all of these features will see a lot more improvement because of that additional data plane cores. Now you can do this even without a reload, starting from the 17.5 release, even without a reload during runtime with that command change, you should be able to repurpose this. And it's a lot more easier, especially in the SD-WAN mode, because all you have to do is a config change in a template or a policy on vManage, and then be able to push that. The other, we do have a hardware crypto assist, which is the quick assisted technology. So that's helped us immensely in terms of being able to get to better IPsec performance numbers. On a high level, the key innovations we're talking about across the 8300, 8200 series, obviously we have up to 5x data plane performance on some specific models. like I said, because of that additional hardware accelerated services and data plane cores. And also the service plane performance has improved tremendously. I'll go through some of the numbers as I cover some future slides. But yeah, we've seen huge improvements in terms of services scale on these platforms as compared to the predecessors. Next up is we've introduced both Cat 18 LTE as well as 5G capabilities on these platforms. We'll talk about some of the Catalyst cellular gateways that we've introduced that have sub-6 5G capability. In terms of tunnel scale, we've gone from 4,000 tunnels to 6,000 tunnels on the 8300s. So huge improvement in terms of SD-WAN tunnel scale for it. And I already mentioned we've introduced 10 gig connectivity options on some of the 8300 models, and including voice integrations into SD-WAN over the last 3 releases. Now, in terms of the different features itself, right? So starting from the left here, we're looking at integrated rich services. I already mentioned about voice survivability, SRST capabilities in the SD-WAN mode, along with DSP farm as well as your analog FXS, FXO port support on these platforms. When it comes to application optimization techniques like TCP optimization, forward correction, packet duplication, we're just now introducing additional features like DRE and caching. Some of them are coming in the 17.5 release. So that gives you a lot more capability to do WAN optimization techniques as well, especially for better user experience or application experience. When it comes to edge intelligence, you're looking at edge intelligence in a couple of ways. On the bigger platforms, you can run a UCSC compute module that gives you capabilities to run both third-party as well as other applications that you want to enable at the branch. But also at the same time, if you don't have that, we also have obviously the service cores available to be able to run some forms of virtual functions natively on the platform itself. Obviously, scale, I think I've already mentioned this a few times, huge improvements in terms of both crypto performance as well as plain IPsec performance and services scale improvement. Multi-layer security, this is where the box will really shine in terms of being able to do all those on-box, on-prem capabilities like your Layer 7 application-aware firewall, your IPS IDS, URL filtering app, and thread grid. At the same time, for some of the smaller boxes, if you don't want to do on-box, on-prem capabilities, we have the integrations with Umbrella Secure Internet Gateway as well. And all of these platforms can do SSL acceleration too. Yeah, and all of this is managed by both vManage for your SD-WAN mode and DNA Center for your autonomous mode. And also, we're looking at introducing 1000i integrations on these platforms pretty soon, coming up in the next few releases. Now, talking about the 8300 series specifically, we have the 4 different models of the 8300. We have the top 2 models, which is the 4T2X models, coming in 12-core and 8-core options, the 2RU and 1RU respectively. Now, in terms of the number of WAN ports on the front panel, you're essentially looking at 4 RJ45 1 gig ports or copper ports, and then 2 SFP plus 10 gig ports. And these platforms have a faster CPU clock rate, and then they're able to give you up to 5 gig of SD-WAN IPsec throughput, or even a slightly higher in the non-SD-WAN IPsec throughput. And then you have the lower 2 models, which are the 6T models. Again, there's a 2RU variant and a 1RU variant. So the 2 and 2S really, or the 1 and 1S really indicate the number of NIM slots and SM slots on the platform based on if it's a 2RU or a 1RU. So the 6T models actually are the same architecture as the top 2, but they have a slower CPU clock rate, and because of which we are able to give you up to 2 gig of IPsec throughput, both SD-WAN and non-SD-WAN on these platforms. And the 6T really indicates, again, 6 WAN ports, 4 copper RJ45 and 2 SFP 1 gig ports. These platforms support some of the newer UADP ASIC-based switch modules, both 22-port and 50-port variants. And we also have the 10 gig WAN module that we've introduced. And I'll share some roadmap information for upcoming more WAN modules that we're adding on these platforms. In terms of user-centric designs, the same capabilities that William mentioned on the 8500. We have an RFID reader, a QR label in the label tray, along with fruable components like the power supplies. So all the 8300 models come with redundant power supplies or dual power supplies, and we've populated both of them default to the base price of the platform. You don't have to pay extra for the second power supply, which was the case for the ISR 4400s. In terms of the variety of power supplies that we support, we have AC, DC, HVDC, as well as PoE options. Now, next is just a quick view. This is just an FYI slide. We continue to have backward compatibility with a lot of the modules of the ISR 4Ks. So we've carried forward a support for a lot of those modules on the 8300s from the ISR 4400s. We've introduced some new modules at the same time. All the ones that are marked in blue are essentially net new modules that have been added to the 8K modular platforms. But again, this is an FI slide. If you have a specific interest for any specific module, you can obviously reach out to us. So before I get to, so the next is I want to talk about the 8200s. So the 8200s are within the 8200, we only just recently launched the 8200L model, which is a 4-core platform in a very compact form factor, and then is 5G ready because of the 5G PIM slot, or you can also connect the Catalyst Cellular Gateway on it. And these are, it comes with voice capabilities, but really the intent behind building the 8200L was that it is the perfect box for a SASE kind of solution for a small or medium-sized branch. Again, you're able to leverage the Umbrella Secure Internet Gateway, which is your firewall as a service with cloud security of DNS and web layer security, and really built for SASE and 5G integrations. So we have the two different 8200 models, the 8200 that was introduced back in Jan, and then the 8200L that was introduced a couple of weeks back. Both these platforms have 4 WAN ports. The 8300s have 6 WAN ports in the front panel, and these two models have 4 WAN ports in the front panel, 2 RJ45 and 2 SFP, all 1 gig ports. Both the 8200s come with 1 NIM slot that can be used for WAN, LAN, and legacy modules and voice modules. And we have the PIM slot, dedicated LTE 5G dedicated slot, what we call the pluggable interface module or PIM slot that can take in both Cat 18, Cat 6, as well as 5G PIM modules. Again, the same user-centric design. They come with an RFID along with a QR label in the label tray. This has fixed internal power supplies. So this is a single power supply, and we have options for AC and PoE. Again, this is just a quick view of all the different modules that we support on the 8200. The 8200s don't have an SM slot; they only have a NIM slot. So essentially, we're able to carry forward all the NIM modules that we support on the ISR 4800 and 4400s get carried forward here. There are a few exceptions of some modules that we could not add support for. So those were phased out, like some of the older UCSE modules, as well as some WAN and LAN modules, but we are building some newer modules on these platforms. Now, just going back to like a quick side-by-side compare that I'd like to do between the 8300s and 4400s. Again, the key takeaway here is that you're going to see a lot more value out of this newer hardware. So instead of 4 WAN ports, you're able to get 6 WAN ports on the 8300 as compared to the 4451. And then so more WAN ports, you're getting higher services scale. We're able to go up to 900 meg of IPS, IDS plus URL filtering, performance along with SD-WAN performance. When it comes to non-SD-WAN, we're looking at going from 4 gig to 12 gig of plain IPsec packet forwarding, and then from 2 gig to 5 gig of IPsec crypto forwarding. And when you're looking at SD-WAN IPsec performance, we've gone from like 1.4 gig to 5 gig. That's easily 3 plus X performance on the platform. And in terms of tunnel scale, we've gone from 4,000 IPsec tunnel scale to 6,000 IPsec tunnel scale. And it's almost like a similar comparison when you look at the 1RU box comparisons of the 8300 1RU versus the 4431, which was also 1RU box. Again, more WAN ports, additional PIM slot. We've also upgraded the default DRAM on all the 8300s from 4 gig to 8 gig so that you're able to run security container services right off the bat and don't have to do a field upgrade for it for DRAM. And then you're able to, because the 8 gig is a minimum requirement for being able to run some of the services. Again, you're going to see 4x improvement in terms of services performance, going from 150 meg to 600 meg. Again, a similar throughput improvement for SD-WAN IPsec as well as non-SD-WAN IPsec performances. So here we are seeing almost close to 5x performance improvement. In terms of tunnels as well, we are able to support 6,000 IPsec tunnels. Now, side-by-side comparison of the 4300 versus the 8200. Here we have, again, the number of WAN ports stay the same. I think that we've gotten we support to 4 WAN ports here. So we have upgraded the default DRAM from 4 gig to 8 gig so that you are able to run container services or that the security services I mentioned. We have 2x improvement in terms of performance. We can support up to 1 gig of SD-WAN IPsec as well as non-SD-WAN IPsec crypto performance. And in terms of tunnel scale, we've gone up to 2500 on the 8200 model. We have then the 8200L model as a comparison versus the ISR 4321. Again, improved tunnel scale up to 1500 tunnels. In terms of throughput, we can go up to 500 meg of IPsec throughput and up to 3 gig of plain Ceph forwarding. And here the DRAM, the default DRAM is only 8 gig, 4 gig, and you can upgrade to 8 gig, 16 and 32 gig. Again, the reason why we put only 4 gig on this, 4 gig DRAM on this box is that we really expect customers to be able to use this with the cloud security option instead of the on-prem security capabilities, because this does not support some of the container services because it's really meant for a SASE kind of solution. So with that said, let me talk about the Catalyst 8200 UCPE. This is our virtualization SD branch hardware. Now, when you look at our Cisco's virtualization solution, it's really about providing an end-to-end capability for a virtualized solution offer. Now, obviously, it depends on where your current journey is in terms of are you looking at physical routing platforms or virtual routing platforms. Our intent is that we are able to provide customers the flexibility using the same orchestration and vManage tools, being able to go with either kind of solutions. So this solution is really meant as a solution for virtualization end-to-end. So we have the 3 different hardware options, which is the Catalyst 8200 Edge UCP that we have recently launched, the traditional ENCS 5400 for bigger branches or enterprise class branches, and then the aggregation head-end platforms, which is the CSP 5200, 5400. Now, all of these platforms have the hypervisor in between, which is Cisco's own hypervisor called NFVIS. So that's the middleware that sort of abstracts the hardware from all the different virtual network functions that you're able to run. So we support the virtual router, the CSR 1 kV or ISR-V on the ENCS, and also the newer Catalyst 8000V software for the virtual routing VNF. And all of these, and you can also run multiple other Cisco VNFs, and we also support some third-party VNFs like some of the other firewall vendors, because what we've seen is the most commonly deployed second VNF other than the routing VNF is a security VNF, and we're supporting some of the third-party security VNFs as well. In terms of the orchestration itself, that's vManage for enterprise solutions. So more pertinent to you guys, you are able to use vManage not just for the SD-WAN VNF routing, VNF management, but also for the underlying UCPE management and also the orchestration and the service chaining of all the different VNFs on that hypervisor, again, from vManage. So it's really truly a single pane of glass of management because vManage can do not just the UCP hardware management with the VNF bring up, but also the management of the SD-WAN router that's running on top of it. Now, quickly talking about the 8200 series HUCP platform that we've introduced in Jan. This is really meant for your small to medium-sized branches or lean branches, where this comes with the 6 WAN ports, and 8 cores on this box. So you can run a 2-core routing VNF or 4-core routing VNF based on the throughput that you're looking for. A 2-core routing VNF will give you up to 200 meg of IPsec throughput, and a 4-core will give you up to 500 meg of IPsec throughput. So really the sweet spot is that 2-core. If you're looking for a branch that needs less than 200 meg of throughput, then deploy a 2-core routing VNF, and you still have 6 cores to be able to run other network functions. Again, comes with a NIM slot as well as a PIM slot, which is for the LTE 5G connectivity. Has a single 2.5-inch HDD drive that can give you storage options for up to 4 TB. We also have an M.2 slot that can also support up to 2 TB of storage. This box will be managed through vManage for enterprise class use cases and through MSX NSO for your MSP or service provider kind of use cases. Just a quick view of the hypervisor, like I mentioned, and this is Cisco's own hypervisor that was built on an open KVM code base, and this we do support traffic acceleration with DPDK and SRIOV. We also have the secure boot up process. So all of our platforms come with the trust anchor module that William was referring to earlier. So the hypervisor is able to make sure it's a secure chain of trust using the trust anchor module. So we do things like all the trustworthy solution features like runtime defenses, secure boot, being able to do image verifications or integrity checks, making sure ground up the box is really secure. Some of these things you're not going to find it on some of the white box vendor boxes that are out there in the market. In terms of the flexibility with management, like I said, you're able to deploy or do the service chaining and orchestration easily from vManage or MSX. Next, in terms of the SD branch solution, right? So we've come a long way, and I want to clearly call out the power of having a single pane of glass of management with vManage, of being able to do the day zero provisioning, your zero touch provisioning, automate all the service chaining. So you can define for the branch saying that I want VNF 1, 2, and 3, a routing VNF, a security VNF, a WAN optimization VNF. You can preload all the images for that into vManage, and when the device comes up to PNP, immediately vManage is able to do the service chaining and orchestration of all the 3 different VNFs in the topology that you want. So we have some valid network design templates that you can leverage and then be able to bring up all of those VNFs quickly from vManage with just a few clicks. We also have some monitoring and assurance capabilities of being able to look at those different VNFs as well as the monitoring of the base hardware itself. So with that, let me talk about the virtualization software image that runs on top of that ENCS or 8200 UCPE. The same software also can now run in the cloud as well. So just to give you that context, we had 2 separate virtual routing images, which was ISR-V that would run on ENCS and a CSR 1000V that would run on both third-party hardware as well as in the cloud. So slowly and steadily over the last few releases, what we've done is we've tried to collapse all of that into a single image so that it gives you that network consistency of being able to qualify a single image and be able to run it anywhere in your network. So you don't have to work with multiple images or differences in features because you're using 2 separate images. So essentially the same Catalyst 8000V image can now run on ENCS or Catalyst 8200 UCP and be able to support all the modules on them with all the capabilities on that hardware. And that same image can also be run in your different public service cloud providers like AWS, Azure, GCP, and also on third-party hardware. So we don't have any plans to integrate the Viptela OS software stack into this. So Catalyst 8000V is iOS XE based, and it's a single image that can run in both autonomous mode as well as controller mode, and be deployed anywhere in your network. Just a couple of quick things around the 8000V software. So we are able to support 10 gig of IPsec throughput in the cloud on some of the service providers. I think specifically on the AWS, we've estimated that it's gone up to 10 gig of IPsec throughput. The same image can support all the NIM modules and the PIM modules on ENCS, and we've integrated, we've done the transit gateway and vWAN integration for Azure. We've done that on the Catalyst 8000V, so huge advantages to that. And then, SD-WAN can be deployed on AWS, Azure, and GCP. In terms of the software capabilities, a lot of the IOSXE capabilities that you have heard on the physical routing platforms, a lot of that can be done on the Catalyst 8000V as well. We've also added in the 8000V, support for secure object storage, as well as we support all the security container features on them. So that's more or less in terms of all the different both physical and virtual routing platforms. I quickly want to talk about a new class of product that we have launched back in October. This is, again, branded Catalyst, but what it is essentially an external gateway, a cellular gateway, what we're calling the Catalyst Cellular Gateway. If you look at the progression of the LTE or wireless WAN technology, we've slowly and steadily gone from Cat 4 to Cat 6 to Cat 18 in terms of the different LTE technologies, and now we are at a point where there's a widespread deployment of 5G capabilities for the different service providers. So we've, for the first time, Cisco, Enterprise Networking has come out with our first 5G cellular capable cellular gateways. So you can look at, two kinds of solutions. So we have the integrated solutions which offer the NIM and PIM modules for Cat 18 and 5G. And we also have the cellular gateways. Now, I'll quickly talk about intent behind having a new solution called the cellular gateway. And that's primarily because, as you get to these faster technologies of Cat 18 and 5G, having good cellular coverage at the branch is very critical to see the throughputs that are expected of these newer technologies. So especially in a branch situation, you might have your rack sitting deep inside a closet, and the way the platform itself sits, having an integrated solution might not always be ideal. So you might not get good cellular coverage inside that closet. So what we've come out with this is external gateway option or external modem option, where you could have this box sitting closer to a window or an open desk with this better coverage, and then connect it back to the platform over a Cat 5 or Cat 6 cable. Essentially, just like as an AP, you would have this box connected back to the routing platform. And this box is just going to act as an external modem, run an IP pass-through mode, and then be able to give an IP address back to the platform. So we have two different variants in this. We first introduced the Cat 18 version of this in October, and then very recently in Feb, we've introduced the 5G sub-6 version in this form factor. Both of them are dual SIM, so you will have support for two SIMs in active standby mode. It's a single modem, dual SIM, and this is supported by vManage for management. Now, again, really powerful. You don't need to run expensive antenna extension solutions. So really powerful. It gives you the flexibility based on your particular brand situation if you want to go with an integrated 5G module or an external gateway 5G module. Now, in terms of the management itself for this Catalyst Cellular Gateway, you could, in 17.3 version, we just had the local management for that device. I think in the 17.4 release is where we added support for the cellular gateway from vManage. So you have a few variations of how you can manage it. You can manage both the router as well as the cellular gateway. You can just manage the cellular gateway independently of what router you connected to, Cisco or otherwise. And then if it's an MSP situation, the MSP could be managing the cellular gateway, and the customer could be managing this the Cisco router. So a lot of variety in terms of how you can look at management solutions for the cellular gateway. So that that's more or less in terms of all the Catalyst branded products, all the platforms, as well as the Catalyst Cellular Gateway for 5G. I want to take a quick pause here before I want to cover a couple of other items on software-related items. I want to take a quick pause and see if there are any questions around in terms of all the platforms that you spoke about. Okay. I think if there are no questions, I'll keep going then. So a couple of things I want to call about is the SD-WAN iOS XE transition itself. So I want to give a quick view of our overall portfolio. So this is the broadest set of SD-WAN platforms that we currently have today. So you're looking at the Catalyst 8300, 8200 platforms as an evolution to the ISR 4K, the 8500, 8500L as an evolution to the fixed ASR 1000 platforms, and the Catalyst 8000V an evolution to the CSR 1KV. All of these platforms are going to be iOS XE based platforms running the XE SD-WAN software, and can be run in both a single image and can do both iOS XE autonomous mode as well as SD-WAN mode. Now we obviously had our our Viptela OS based platforms, the VH100 and VH1000. Those have been phased out. They've been replaced by the ISR 1100 4G and 6G models, both with 4 gig and 8 gig capabilities. So these again can run dual OS, so they can run the Viptela OS, but we also added in the 17.4 release the XE SD-WAN capability on these platforms. So if you're a customer who is trying to come or migrate from that Viptela OS, then this is a good chance for you to see how you can adopt iOS XE based platforms. Again, for the virtualization, I already spoke about the Catalyst 8100 UCP and the ENCS 5400. The CSP 5200 and 5400 are your aggregation platforms, and the 8000V is the same 8000V image that runs on this hardware as well. So just a quick view of where iOS XE is headed. Obviously, iOS XE SD-WAN software is going to be the future for Cisco's SD-WAN software, and we have added a multitude of integrated services. Your advanced cloud security and interface flexibility and embedded security and integrated voice. So all of that feature richness comes with XE SD-WAN, and that's going to be the future for our SD-WAN investments. In terms of it's the architecture for XE. It's best-in-class Cisco OS. It's been around for a very long time. It's very robust and gives us the leverage of being able to constantly improve on that. And it's going to be that one OS across all your network locations that includes branch, cloud, and colo. A quick view of the single image that we were talking about. I do want to call out that you can, when you run the platform in autonomous mode, you are getting a network stack that's going to be perpetual, and you should be able to use that perpetual network stack for on-box, on-prem capabilities without even renewing. So we've come out with a simplified licensing model, so we don't have any of the complexity of the older licenses like IP-Base, AppSec, or UC. We've come out with a single Cisco DNA Premier Advantage or Essentials package based on which software stack you want to use. And if you are looking at an SD-WAN solution, then you can run the box in controller mode and then use the DNA stack that you're entitled to for the term that you've purchased it for. But if you're purchasing it for the autonomous mode, then and you don't plan to use our DNA Center, so you don't need the DNA stack, then you're essentially able to purchase the lowest term offered on that particular platform, which is typically 3 years, and then just get a perpetual network stack and continue to manage that beyond that for the life of the product with the network stack for CLI managed platform. Again, in terms of the soft licensing itself, like I mentioned, it's a mandatory DNA subscription for all 8K platforms. You have the DNA Premier Advantage and Essentials packages with both on-prem and cloud options. And we've tried to simplify the number of bandwidth levels that we've offered. Some of our previous generation products offered like 11 different bandwidth levels. We've sort of tried to simplify that. We've gone down to T0, T1, T2, and T3, only 4 bandwidth tiers. The T0 is up to 30 meg of aggregate. Tier 1 is up to 200 meg of aggregate. Tier 2 is 2 gig of aggregate, and Tier 3 is anything beyond 2 gig. So yeah, I will try to simplify and reduce the complexity in terms of the number of bandwidth tiers that we offer. So again, in terms of the bandwidth tier choice itself, for autonomous mode, we're not looking at the non-crypto traffic. We're only looking at crypto traffic. And for SD-WAN mode, it's basically all WAN traffic that's going in and out of the branch. That's the way you look at these bandwidth tiers. So with that, I want to quickly cover a couple of items in terms of roadmap, and then we can take final questions and wrap up the session. In terms of roadmap, I do want to mention that we're looking at doing 1000i integration for both ISR 4K products as well as the Catalyst 8300, 8200 products in the 17.6 release. So 17.6 release is expected sometime in the month of July and August. So, we are looking to see how we can improve on our analytics and visibility capabilities, and bringing in the 1000i integrations is going to be a huge step forward in that direction. And a quick view of the SD-WAN roadmap. Obviously, this is a lot of content here. I'll just call out some key takeaways. We're constantly continuing to improve on our SD-WAN capabilities. So we've done a lot of, on the services side, we've brought in a lot of capabilities around voice, around vManage. We've brought in capabilities for role-based access control and DPI enhancements, as well as your improved day zero provisioning as well as smart licensing. In terms of the core features that you want to be looking at, we've brought in a lot of multi-tenancy capabilities over the last couple of releases, improved on layer 7 health checks as well as better integrations to Cisco Umbrella. And then we have a very strong roadmap with what's coming in 17.6 and beyond, being able to bring in more capabilities on our SD-WAN solution. From a hardware roadmap perspective, we are looking at August, the 17.6 release. We're bringing in, so we've already introduced a 5G cellular gateway. We're also bringing in the 5G sub-6 gigahertz PIM module for the integrated 5G capability on the Catalyst 8K hardware and ISR 1K hardware. We're also looking at bringing in some 1 gig and M gig WAN modules that will be supported on the 8300s and 8200 platforms. And we also have some plans for ISR 1100s with Wi-Fi 6 and 5G capabilities beyond August. So that brings me to sort of the last section here. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so we do have a couple of offers that we're looking at. Essentially, we're very fast approaching the ISR G2 last day of support. So if you're still sitting on some ISR 2900s or 3900s, then I think it's a good time to consider looking at some upgrade options, because the last day of support for these 2900 and 3900 platforms is going to be December 2022. So you have approximately about 18 to 20 months before you hit that last day of support for those platforms. So what you're looking at is an offer called Level Up to 8K. Essentially, we are providing some discounts on the hardware when you purchase them with the DNA software on top of it. So the hardware discounts are up to 28% on the 8300 models, up to 38% on the higher and top 8200 model. We're also giving a free 22-port switch module on the 8300s and a PIM module that you can choose on the 8300 or on the 8200. It's one, you have to choose one or the other. you can't get both. In terms of if you're a customer who's only recently invested in ISR 4K and you're still looking at getting your full return on investment on that ISR 4K or ISR 1K platform, what we are doing is we have come out with an offer called First Year on Cisco. Essentially, when you purchase your 3-year license or 5-year license, you get a 33% discount. So a 3-year license that amounts to the first year being free of the 3 years for you. So again, definitely these are current Q3 promotions, and we expect to extend it to Q4 as well. So in the coming months, definitely look at some of these offers if they make sense for you as you consider this some new hardware. So that sort of brings it to the end of the session. So I want to just highlight that Cisco is continuing to innovate in a lot of different ways. So a lot of the things that we spoke about today were specific to the platform infrastructure innovations that we have done. But at the same time, we've been doing a lot of cloud-related innovations as well. So we've done Megaport integration. We've acquired Megaport, and we've also brought in a lot of capabilities, integrations with GCP as well as AWS and Azure. So we're continuing to do multi-cloud optimizations and other improvements in terms of our cloud integrations as well. So all in all, Cisco will continue to innovate, making it a more powerful SD-WAN solution on the best of class of hardware, platforms, the Catalyst 8K, and we'll continue to keep doing that innovation. So with that, this sort of brings us towards the end of the session. Please let me know if you have any final questions before we wrap it up.